Apocalypse guy. I'm gonna rewatch these. Like I saw First Class finally.
Mm.
I saw the Wolverine. I saw a little bit of the first one because I've always said that the first X-Men, it's not the best movie, but it's always been my favorite because all the other ones they all blow up the scale.
Yeah.
So like really, whereas this is like really quaint and almost Roger Corman B movie and just how stripped down it is, and I kind of admire that.
So yeah, I saw X-Men Apocalypse last night, which, against all odds, I kind of liked it.
So, is it like me, where you go, oh my goodness, this has like some really good ideas and some really great visuals, but it's stapled together by a man with no hands?
Honestly, no. I think I liked it even more than you did. Like, I thought it, to paraphrase Vidiot's, cohesed very nicely, actually, for the most part. There are definitely some serious flaws with this movie.
Like, to me, like, the tone shifts are just so jarring. And,
see, those, I recognize them in hindsight, but as I was watching it, they didn't really bother me. Although I will admit, like, you have that great fun Quicksilver scene followed up immediately by a death that we're supposed to care about.
I think my favorite one is that it's just a complete, it's something where they knew what they were doing. They knew this was a major tone shift when they wrote it. So they wrote this line. It's like, all right, we'll do it here. It's the, who the fuck are you? That line is such genius because it's like the writers know what they're, Fassbender knows what's going on, the writers know what's going on, Singer knows what's going on. And he almost looks at the camera.
Yeah. That line is perfectly delivered.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's followed up immediately by one of the most bizarre lines I think I've ever heard. Don't try to stop me from killing these men.
Which is followed by Apocalypse sinking them into the floor, and then we don't care anymore. And there's the magnificent scene of him destroying Auschwitz.
I don't know what to think about that scene.
Which is,
I think it weirdly kind of works in the context of the movie.
Venn diagram. It's like, it's kind of tasteless, kind of avant-garde, kind of really effective, and it's this perfect spot in the Venn diagram where Magneto destroying Auschwitz goes, as Oscar Isaac in heavy makeup watches wantingly.
Yeah. Well, okay, so first of all, Oscar Isaac is blatantly miscast, I think, but
it's a miscasting. I think it's a very interesting miscasting because it's not like, oh, there's just something like, why would you cast Oscar Isaac to do this role? And there's something bewildering just trying to see him act from underneath.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does kind of succeed in getting some expressiveness out through the makeup, especially like with his eyes. Like, you were right, if you look at the eyes, you can really see that it's him, but
like the makeup, I think they said the makeup draws you to the eyes, and like the eyes are the big thing about this character.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, Apocalypse is a terrible villain. He's just another guy who wants to dominate the world because evil, I guess.
I know. To me, it's like it's a bit like if you brought Mussolini into the future and went, oh, and he just would go, oh my god, this world is terrible. Let's just wipe it clean.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not too different from a lot of the MCU villains, but this one kinda sorta works a little better because, like, he thinks he's a god and he kind of, like, is almost a god, so I guess that kind of works, but they don't really get into the implications of, like, what that would kind of do to a person, like, having a god complex like that, but
well, I think the reason he's more interesting and more successful than, say, what the fuck was his name in Civil War?
I don't know. Zemo, something like that.
Zemo or something like that. He's much because he gets the character of Apocalypse is terrible. The tool of Apocalypse is kind of weirdly effective. Whereas he's a tool to get character arcs and emotional stakes from. It's like as a screenwriter's tool, he's really effective. As a character,
yeah. See, because here's the thing, though. This movie is without a doubt overstuffed and probably too long, but Here's the thing. I felt mostly like it was overstuffed because it was trying to give too many characters arcs.
Yes.
And I'm okay with that. Like, it's not like overstuffed in the Civil War way, which is we have to cram in all these things that we just have to put in there because corporate demanded it. You know,
it's like what Warner was saying about Bleach. Just throw more characters at it.
Yeah.
It'll solve the problem. Because here's the thing about it. Here's the big difference. You can say that Civil War is the better constructed movie.
Yes, I would probably say that.
But Apocalypse did something that Civil War never did in any of its running time. Fully engage me.
Mm-hmm.
As long as Apocalypse was, I was engaged and with it the entire way through. Even as I was noticing the Scotch tape and the tears all the way through.
And there's a lot of like goofy over the topness in this movie for sure.
Oh, the melodrama has turned up to 11.
Which maybe is probably there in some of the other X-Men movies, but isn't something I really noticed in either First Class or Days of Future Past, both of which I love, by the way.
Here's the thing about it. I don't think Apocalypse is all that different from Days of Future Past and First Class. Whereas I think all three, it's kind of the new X-Men trilogy.
Right.
Whereas like all these films have like really interesting visuals and ideas, but they're not quite sure how to get to that. So there's all these weird goofs and plot twists and things like that they don't always work.
Yeah.
But they do always get you to those interesting ideas and visuals. So I think I will give them that, is that they are interesting and entertaining to watch all the way through.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting, like, just how kind of, not really positive the buzz around Apocalypse has been. Like, it's sitting at a 48 on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and it's like, why? Like, this is like a 70-60 movie, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I think
especially in terms of superhero movies, it's like, it's definitely more interesting than, some of the other crap we've got going on.
I think some of I saw it with like a few friends, and they really didn't like it.
Really?
They really didn't like it. I mean, they got entertainment value out of it because they just thought for them it was just the goofy stuff was just too goofy, and the tone stuff was just too jarring, and for them it just turned into an unintentional comedy for them. And I've seen quite a few reviewers who just seem like they're just fed. They almost seemed angry at it. And I think I can see where the flaws, people can only see the flaws, and they just don't care what else
But
is there.
Here's the thing. I think maybe a lot of critics are sick of superhero movies, but that doesn't answer the question then of why Civil War is sitting at a 90% while this is at a 48. Like,
Civil War at least makes some sense.
But this movie does make sense. Except for the climax. Okay, the climax of this movie is the worst part, and it makes no goddamn sense. But like, I think, like, if you're, like, this movie is nothing like the MCU movies. It's not like Batman v Superman. Like, Batman v Superman is just a mess.
I don't think Batman v Superman is even worth talking about. I just don't even, to me, it's like everyone says it's terrible. They're just gonna keep on making them because you put Batman on Superman and something, it's going to print money. So I just think I just don't think there's anything interesting to wring out of Batman v Superman conversation.
There really
isn't. There's a Civil War that's sitting at a 90%. Everyone loves it. Everyone's gone nuts over with. It's made boatloads of money.
Mm. Well, but okay, here's the thing I love. Okay, I was gonna get into this about like the central difference between the MCU movies and the X-Men movies. It's that the MCU movies are like an assembly line, basically. Like, they're churning out movies that are all like 7, 8 out of 10. And occasionally you'll get something like Guardians, which is a little above that. But
Guardians, I think, is a special example because that's the only one where you have characters no one knows about, so they brought on a really kooky auteur and let him run.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, the Marvel movies feel like machine-made, whereas the X-Men movies, by contrast, at least most of them, feel kind of more, like, handcrafted in a way. Like,
You feel Bryan Singer.
Yeah, like Bryan Singer's...
feel Bryan Singer, you feel these directors.
Yeah, like they're doing what they want to do, and like the X-Men movies aren't doing the thing where like they don't care about like maintaining perfect continuity. They're not about like all the, self-referential. Like at the end of Days of Future Past, like Stryker turns around and his eyes flash yellow, signaling that he's Mystique. That's never brought up in X-Men Apocalypse. Like,
or like the January Jones character in First Class, who I think Singer kills off screen.
yeah. Like all the characters from First Class that he didn't want to use anymore, they just disappear in the time between First Class and Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think part of why
Also, the other weird thing, I have to say this real quick, these movies keep jumping ahead 10 years and no one seems to age.
Because technically, okay, we're in the 80s. It's now been 20 years since First Class. If anything, Magneto looks older in First Class than he does here.
Rose Byrne looks maybe a few years older. McAvoy and Nicholas Hoult look fine.
They look... Well, Nicholas Hoult is going to look boyish no matter what you do to him. So I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. I love Nicholas Hoult, but he's always going to look like a little boy. I think he's going to be like the new Elijah Wood, where no matter how old he gets, he's always going to look like that.
Yeah. Hey, at least Nicholas Hoult had time for Fury Road in between all of this.
Oh, certainly.
The other thing is that watching Apocalypse, you could totally tell that Jennifer Lawrence and Michael Fassbender don't want to be there anymore.
Oh my god, the acting, and some of the like, what high school gangbang did they pull Jean Grey from?
What? I thought she was
really
good.
Did not like Jean Grey.
I liked her.
I really did not like her.
She's on Game of Thrones, and she's pretty good.
Because I just watch her, I'm like, oh, this is not good, and I didn't like Cyclops either.
Cyclops is a little shakier.
I didn't like Cyclops. Like the point where there's a bit where he's screaming at the end because the lasers are coming out. They're going to defeat Apocalypse. Eyes are coming. There's kind of like a pause in the action. There's like a beat, like almost something you're pausing for comedy, and then he just starts firing the lasers again and starts screaming. And it's like they almost planned it for comedy. There's like it's such a weird movie to get a good grasp on because it's just so. I think because I find it as, to me, the visuals and the interesting ideas keep it above water for me, but I can't really say, this is a good movie, you should go out and watch it.
Like, objectively, it's not great. It's not even very good. But, like, I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it, which is more than I can say for Civil War. I spent half of Civil War just scratching my head going, what's going on right now?
I spent Civil War just looking at each other confused and bewildered.
Like, I was ridiculously confused during Civil War.
And most of all, here's the big difference. I was bored during Civil War. I was excited during Apocalypse.
Like, I mean, here's the thing, like, okay, so you have the Spider-Man stuff in Civil War, which is there for no reason, because, the studio said, like, put Spider-Man in this movie. In Apocalypse, you have kind of a similar thing where they go to this facility and Wolverine is there for some reason, and then he gets released, and...
Can I just say something about the Wolverine bit? There's images stuck with me. There's a bit where he's running around ripping people to shreds. There's one point where he looks into a surveillance camera. I think he screams and then runs away.
Yeah.
And I'm just so bewildered. Like, whose idea was this shot? I want to kiss them. This is hilarious.
Like, the Wolverine stuff has no reason to be there either, but, the difference is with all this stuff that's crammed into Apocalypse, I feel like it's all there because Bryan Singer and the writers wanted it to be there, not because the studio wanted it to be there. That's the big difference. I guess that's pretty much it. Like, like I was saying before, the Marvel movies are a lot more, the MCU movies are a lot more consistent than the X-Men movies, I would say. Like, with X-Men, you have, like, the highest highs of, First Class and Days of Future Past, and then you have shit like The Last Stand,
Yeah. But I will take those peaks.
Right, but, like, the peaks of the X-Men movies are so much more interesting than the peaks of the MCU.
Well, I think it also comes down to this, is... like I think we notice like the jarringness of characters like Black Panther and Spider-Man in Civil War because that's a universe that's kind of been built to try where you try to have it make sense.
Yeah.
But in the case of X-Men, they threw that out the window movies ago.
Yeah.
So they just don't care, and so you don't care when we're watching it.
Right.
I think I also noticed this is that X-Men I think is a lot more interesting because here's the thing about it. I don't know why, but there's kind of something inherently political about superheroes, especially just how, like, when you have characters like Captain America.
Yeah.
And there's something about these characters are kind of naturally political, and you can
Yeah.
either milk that or just throw that out.
Darren Fredich just wrote a new think piece about that, actually.
Yeah, whereas something like in the MCU, they are terrified about getting political. They just really like the closest they get is Winter Soldier, and even then, that just backs out of it. Just backs out, throws its hands up by the third act because it just doesn't care about that. Whereas in X-Men, they wear the political stuff on their sleeve. They have things like they have a JFK assassination. It's almost like Watchmen. It's like a much brighter Watchmen-esque world where there's all these like political things going on. And I think does it always work? Oh hell no. But is it always interesting? Yes.
Yeah. I guess just the thing is like, you know, with the X-Men movies still feel like movies. Like I noticed that like I was sitting in Apocalypse like this isn't great, but it's still a movie. Like they're still like telling
like you have Apocalypse destroying Cairo.
Yeah, they're telling largely self-contained stories with, you know, big sequences and big, you know, cinematic stuff. Like, the Quicksilver sequence in this movie, great. Loved it in Future Past, love it here. Like, you can say they're just trying to, like, recreate what they had before, but, like, it's still...
They add layers to it.
It still works like gangbusters.
Because, well, in Days of Future Past, it's just him running around rearranging things. In this, he's like setting up sails and throwing kids out windows and stealing pizza from dogs. And it's like really creative. Yeah. They just ramp up the creativity with these things.
And I'd be hard pressed to name any sequence from like the last 5 Marvel movies that, you know, comes anywhere close to the creativity of those sequences. Like Bryan Singer is a movie director.
Yes, I was just about to say that. Like the Russo brothers are TV people, and it's so blindingly obvious when you watch an MCU movie.
Yeah.
With Bryan Singer, he is not afraid to go goofy.
Like, look at the directors that the MCU has been hiring lately. Like, they got a guy who directs episodes of Game of Thrones for the last Thor movie. They got the Russo brothers. They got Joss Whedon, who, he's worked on movies, but he mostly comes from, guess what, TV. The Marvel movies are television. We've talked about this before, but...
Yes. With X-Men, you get Bryan Singer, his stuff is really cinematic. Even when you look outside the X-Men, like we talked about Superman Returns before. Superman Returns is really grand and operatic at times, and I really like that about it because that's the only time a Superman series has done that properly.
Yeah.
And then there's Matthew Vaughn's First Class, and Matthew Vaughn has really creative ideas for action scenes and really creative ideas for staging things.
Like, I didn't love Kingsman, but the church sequence in Kingsman is great, and, you know, to have someone who brings that kind of sensibility to these movies is great.
It's inventive with its action. It doesn't revert to lazy cliches.
I love Matthew Vaughn, and I love First Class. First Class is an excellent movie. I mean, none of these movies are perfect. And First Class has its own set of problems.
That's the most blindingly obvious thing about all these, is that I think people kind of want to find... I think people will sometimes see good as the absence of bad, which we just don't agree with that at all, because you get stuff like Marvel, whereas is there that much wrong with Civil War? Maybe objectively, no, but that creates so much more problems when you aim for a flat line.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Marvel aims for the flat line, and they get it every time. X-Men, they fire their cannons at the peak. Do they make it? Actually, not that often. Missed more than they've made it. But when they hit...
I do think it's interesting how, like, Darren Franich points this out all the time, how, like, Mystique has become the most important character in the
Yeah.
X-Men universe, which is so weird.
She's replaced Wolverine, which is another. Which is so weird. Like you have these characters that their kind of role originally is to be like they're switching sides and slinking around and don't really want to be there, and now they're the center of your universe,
Man, Wolverine 3 is
which I
going to be
find
awesome.
Hmm?
I said Wolverine 3 is going to be awesome. It's going to be rated R. It's going to be super violent. It's going to be so cool.
Is James Mangold coming back?
Yes, I believe he is.
Okay, then I'm on board. You want to talk about the Wolverine?
Yes,
now?
let's talk about the Wolverine. Admittedly, I have not seen this movie since I first saw it when it came out in theaters. So, and you just watched it.
Yeah, I watched it this morning.
I will say this though, I'm pretty sure I would only like it more than I did when I first saw it now, because, you know, since then I've grown, you know, fatigued of the Marvel movies. Just I've started to question superhero movies a lot more than I used to. And I do remember that this movie is really weird and different and
Yeah, it's
does a lot of, you know, oddball things that other superhero movies just will not do.
like it has. It has the strength. It has the balls to make. Okay, we're gonna have our main character get his ass kicked in some of this thing. We're
Yeah.
not gonna try and make every single thing he does look cool.
Right.
Which is something like I think Vinny gets talking about this in The Dark Knight. You can see they're editing it to make Christian Bale look cool the entire way through. But I think there's kind of an intimacy to the Wolverine that you just don't get in most superhero movies because they're tentpole pictures. Like there's this grand scale, and now with Marvel, there's just all these different characters being thrown out there. This is just really stripped down.
All hope of intimacy happening in a solo MCU movie is now gone. Now that Civil War is basically an Avengers movie.
Yes.
You know, you can never hope for that again. And the Wolverine, like, it is a solo Wolverine movie. There's no other X-Men in it. It's just focusing on this guy who is a very kind of lost and damaged guy, and they portray him that way, and it's very well done.
And it's not just like, and it's not lazy shorthand. They really do go into what this character is going through, what this character sees. They really go into his head, which is something that the other movies just don't have time for.
Right.
Like even as much as even as much as you can say, oh, they focus on Wolverine too much, they really don't have the chance to go into his head like they do here.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a scene of where and it's melodramatic as hell, where it's like he wakes up and there's Jean Grey there.
Like Wolverine is at least the co-lead of all the other X-Men movies that he's in.
That he's prominently in.
Yes. Yeah, and he's, you know, the main character of the Wolverine, and that's great.
It's called the Wolverine.
Right. I will admit, I remember being turned off by the romantic subplot. I just felt like that was, you know, cliche and stupid, but
I don't mind it too much because of what it got out of that, because you get it's one of the few times you just get Wolverine is just talking about what he's going, like you get Wolverine to reveal some things, like, and Wolverine the character of Logan is like a very standoffish, very myself kind of character. So when he opens up, that's to me, I find that really interesting and really I find there's like some really nice revelations in that. Mm-hmm. And like if you need a romantic subplot to do that, go right ahead. It's like how I feel about Apocalypse. Mm. Is that like is it actually good? No, but as a screenwriter's tool, I like it.
Yeah. And then the other main thing is that I remember, like, the climax, like, you know, the old Japanese guy is in the big ninja suit from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So that, you know, is a little bit of a
I don't think the movie cares as much as... I don't think the movie cares that much about keeping it a secret. I just think it's like, like, hey, keep it as a secret, surprise the audience. I don't think the filmmakers are really that committed to it.
Yeah, like
that's so obvious.
I have to go back and watch it again, but you know, from everything I've heard about it since, like, it feels like they cared less about the plot of the movie than just, you know, getting into Wolverine's head and sending him on an interesting journey.
Well, that's one thing I really like about these X-Men movies. That they are character driven.
Yeah,
plot
absolutely.
never gets in the way.
Yeah.
If they want to do some character stuff, goddamn, they're gonna do it. They don't
Right.
give a shit.
Like, that's the best part about Apocalypse is that, like I say, like, it gives maybe too many characters arcs, but it does give them arcs.
And yes, they are, and they feel fulfilling. They
Yeah.
don't feel too. I don't think there's any arc that feels just completely rushed and out of nowhere.
I will say that I am getting kind of sick of them always kind of rebooting Magneto back to square one, but other than that, like,
I think if we're gonna go full on with Apocalypse here, it's like that's the biggest problem I have with that ending is that Magneto just says, "Goodbye, old friend." After committed probably genocide. He's probably killed a number at least in the hundreds of thousands.
yeah.
Like we look like Cairo is a flaming husk.
But they have to bring Michael Fassbender back for the next movie. He's never coming back.
Are they? Here's
Go, Michael Fassbender, be free. Do more movies. Do more stuff like Steve Jobs and stuff. And, you know,
Steve Jobs, do that weird ass Macbeth movie.
be in that stuff. I'm begging you. Although now he's in the Assassin's Creed movie, so God only knows how that's going to turn out.
It's the same guy. I'm somewhat hopeful. I mean,
I don't know. I don't care about video games, so I'm not going to see it. But
neither do I. But people seem to. I don't know why. But it's like I just see this. I just see the opportunity of a good movie to come out of that franchise. More so than like the other stuff they've been trying to make.
I guess. So yeah, we like the X-Men movies.
That's like a revelation that's come up. Like ever since seeing Apocalypse, I just go, you know, fuck Marvel. I'm gonna go to the X-Men movies. This is the good Marvels.
Like the more I think about, like, you know, we say we're so fatigued about superhero movies, but I always forget about the X-Men movies because like we only get one like every 3 years, and it's like
it's not the machine like Marvel.
Right. So yeah, the X-Men movies, they're good. Well, some of them are.
Good, and none of them are perfect, but they are all interesting.
They are all interesting. They are an oasis in the desert of superhero cinematic universes.
Yes. And X-Men Origins Wolverine is the greatest unintentional parody I've ever seen. I adore that movie so much because good. I caught it on TV. I'd heard so much about it, but I'd never actually seen it. I caught it on TV and just instantly fell in love. How bad it was.
Well, I mean, I definitely have to go back and rewatch the Wolverine now. I'm not sure whether I'll ever get around to Origins Wolverine, but
it's just one of these things where I just watched it. I just went, oh, it's so adorable.
I'm dreading the forthcoming day when they try to plug Deadpool into the regular X-Men movies, but
do you think they're going to?
I really hope they don't.
I don't think, because here's the thing. I think if it was Marvel, you'd have to fear that. With this, you think just Bryan Singer would just go, look, man, this is a movie with Holocaust references. We can't have Deadpool.
Yeah.
And I think Bryan Singer has some teeth. Which is one thing. So I think, is Bryan Singer going to keep on? Is he staying on?
I think I read something like he was stepping away for a little bit. Like they don't have current solid plans for the next movie. No. Like you keep hearing rumors like it's going to be a '90s take on like Dark Phoenix or something. Yeah. They've got the next Wolverine movie coming out. They've got Deadpool 2. The Channing Tatum Gambit movie has been rumored for a while. I think it lost its director and has been delayed a couple times.
They're never going to do it.
I hope they do because that does sound interesting. And I don't know much about Gambit, but he does sound like an interesting character.
That's it with the X-Men movies, that they intrigue you.
Yeah.
It's not like where it's
like they have a wealth of characters. They could do like spin-off movies into eternity. Like I would watch a solo Mystique movie. I would watch a solo Nightcrawler movie, probably.
No, I'm begging for a solo Magneto movie because that was the most frustrating. That was the one frustrating thing about First Class is that it starts off as a Magneto movie and then spirals into this big bloated X-Men thing.
I mean, yeah, but like James McAvoy's Professor X is amazing. I love him so much.
If you're going to do a Magneto movie, you have to have Professor X in there somewhere.
Yeah. Can I just say, like, it? One last thing about Apocalypse. I'm a sucker for James McAvoy and Rose Byrne's little romantic thing. That works so well. Like the scene where he goes to the CIA and like he's like stumbling all around. Right. He's like, "Oh, you have a son. Does he have a husband? Do you have a husband?" No, we got divorced. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Like, here's the thing about it. Like, that's another thing about the comedy in this. The comedy in these is so much better because they come naturally through situations.
Right.
It's not just
quips.
Yes, it's like formula comedy insert here.
Right.
These actually get laughs out of you.
Yeah.
So, remember the last episode when we said we were going to stop ragging on Marvel?
That's not going to happen.
At
least not until Guardians 2 comes out and we all hopefully heap our praises upon it.
I'm kind of apprehensive about it because I'm going, yeah, I loved Guardians, but in the back of my mind I go, oh shit, they might bring some Marvel Cinematic Universe bullshit into this, which I'm just really, really terrified about because I think Guardians was as good as it was because it just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It just said like, all right, fuck it, we're gonna do our own thing. We're gonna be a grand old space opera because you people don't have balls.
Well, that's our ramblings on the X-Men films.
And everything in between.
Yep. Join us again next Wednesday for Edgar Wright Week, which is probably not going to end as well as I'm hoping.
Oh, Hugh Jackman looks great.
He does look great, but like I love his Wolverine, but like he needs to stop. Like he's gonna hurt himself if he keeps going.
I think
do your Old Man Logan movie, finish it up, and then go, man. Run away.
It sounds like that's what they're going to do. Like he spent 16 years of his life playing this character.
Yeah. One day when the cloud comes crashing down, you will all thank me.